Well, here we are at the 7th week, and if this were a baseball game, this would be the time for the 7th inning stretch. We have taken a look at a number of issues so far, things that I would call blocks to the inner healing process. Sin, unforgiveness, mental agreements, and lack of self-forgiveness are the things that get in the way of inner healing. And if you have worked through those in your life, you now have the opportunity to start to take a look at memories. And so today we're going to be spending some time dealing with the rooms in the mind that hold the memories of the past that have pain in them. The mind can be transformed, and the way it's transformed is with truth, especially if that truth is from Jesus Christ. So we're now at the point where we're going to talk about how do you get back to memories, and how are memories transformed, and how does truth transform lies in those memories? There are several Bible verses. The first is John 8:32, the truth will set you free, but the other is 2 Corinthians 10 verse 5, take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ. You see, the Lord says, love me with all of your heart and soul and strength and mind. Love me with all your mind. And so this is about the mind. And when you take every thought captive in the mind, whether it's current thinking or whether it's past thoughts that are in memories, we are to take those thoughts captive to Jesus. And so the process of inner healing starts with a feeling. If you have a destructive feeling, that's an indication that somewhere in your mind there is a memory that's holding that destructive feeling. If you have depression or fear or anxiety or worry, you can go back to the earliest memory in your life that holds that feeling, and that memory can be transformed. What I have come to learn in working with clients over these last 10 years is that a past memory can be just as powerful as a current experience. I remember working with one man who said, I'm intelligent. I only live in the present and look into the future, and the past has no power over me. It has no control over me. And yet this man was a very destructive individual. And what he was unwilling to do was go back and look at what it was in his past that was contributing to his destructive behavior in the present. So little of our conscious mind is using the brain. Maybe less than 0.05% of our brain is in the conscious mind. Over 99% of our brain is in the unconscious mind. And so we have memories that we experienced when we were at birth or age 5 or 7, many years ago. Often when we do this inner healing work, people will say, I haven't thought about that memory in years. It was just back there in the memory bank. But what happened was emotions and words got stuck in that memory, and that memory has just been sitting there in the person's mind, and that has opened themselves up to these destructive feelings. Then in the present, when they get triggered by a similar type of event, those feelings come rushing up and they take over and they overwhelm the individual. If you don't go back and deal with that memory, nothing will change. The same feelings will get triggered every time you run into that response in the present. And so we actually need to go back and address those memories and deal with them. I know there are a number of people who've said, oh, I always go back to that memory and I tell people about that memory, and then I go away from the memory. I never deal with it. I talk about the memory, but I never deal with it. It's never transformed. It's never changed. And so what we need to do is have a process that will enable you to be able to go back to those memories that are destructive and transform them so that you can be free. Now, how are memories stored in the mind? Some people are visual, some people are auditory, and some people are kinesthetic, which means feeling people. And so you may store your memories in any one of those ways. You may have it as a picture, or for you it may just be a story, or for you it may just be a feeling. But in whatever way you work, those memories are held and stored, and those feelings get stuck inside of you. The one question that I get asked is, do I actually need to go to the painful memory to be free? And the answer is yes. If you don't go to the pain, the memory won't be transformed. But the good news is that if you go to the memory and invite Jesus into the memory, He will help you deal with it in a way that's not that painful. Or you can even ask Him in advance and say, Jesus, come back with me now to that painful memory so that I can cope with this. So the good news is that as Christians, we have Jesus as a partner to help us deal with these painful memories. And He came not just to save us, but He also came to transform these memories and change them so that we can be free. Some people ask me the question, how do you invite Jesus into the memory, or how do you take a thought captive? And the way I have learned to do this is by encouraging the individual to use their own words and invite Jesus into the specific thought or memory where the pain is. So it goes something like this. Dear Jesus, I invite you into this memory when I was 5 years old and I was in the schoolyard and a bully was beating me up and calling me names, and I felt really weak and hurt. And I said to myself, I am a loser. That invitation, when you invite Jesus into that memory, He's there instantly. It's the same as salvation. When you open your door and invite Jesus in, He's instantly in the front hall of your life. He's inside your house, and He's with you. Similarly, when you open the door of a room, as soon as you open that door and invite Jesus in, He is there instantly. He's there because He's a loving God. He's there because He loves to heal. He's there because He wants you to be free. And so He needs you to use your free will to make that invitation. And so once again, your will is involved in this inner healing process. Now people ask me, how does Jesus come into the memory? For some people, He will actually walk into the picture, come over and put His arm around the person and comfort them. He may stand between that individual and the person who's trying to hurt them. They can visually see Jesus in the memory. For some people, they're not visual. And what they'll say is, I just sense His presence. I sense a peace now in this memory that I didn't sense before. Some people say, I see more light. It seems like there's a bright light there, and He comes as light. For each individual, the experience can be different. But when you do invite Jesus, He is there, and He will help you transform those memories. The next issue, once Jesus is in the memory, is how do you transform the memory? How do you make that memory better? Well, the first thing that you need to do is you need to understand what are the negative words that are attached to the memory. Even if you're a feeling person, you made an interpretation, you created a meaning of that memory. And that was made up of words, and those words are attached to that memory. They're connected to the memory. So what you need to get to is, what are those words that are in the memory, that are embedded in that memory, that have a negative power? Examples of those words are, I am no good, or I am unworthy, or I am not loved, or I am not wanted, or I am a loser, or I am a failure. Those sorts of words are the words that are not true, but they are attached to a memory. How do we know that I am unworthy is not true? Because God doesn't make unworthy. When He creates us, He made us good. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. And so this belief that we are unworthy is against the truth and the knowledge of God. And so when He brings His words of truth into the memory, He will transform that lie and set it free. So how do you know when the memory has been healed? The memory's been healed when the feeling, the destructive feeling, goes to 0. So if you started with a 9 on a 10 scale of fear in the memory, when Jesus brings His truth into the memory and transforms the memory, the feeling of fear will go away. It will go to 0. And so the person who is going through the inner healing will be able to say, there is no feeling of fear there any longer, or whatever the destructive feeling is. So the good thing about this process is you know when you're done, because you know that that feeling that you don't want is no longer there. What is it that transforms the memory or transforms the lie? It's the truth, Jesus' truth. When He brings that truth, in some divine way, that truth takes the lie and diminishes it, it kills it, it removes it, and the truth takes over. And so in the process of listening to the truth and receiving the truth of Jesus, that's how the memory is transformed. Now, is it possible for other people to tell you the same truth and for the memory to be healed? What I've noticed is that any individual who is outside brings external truth. They may say, yes, you are worthy, and try and convince you with Bible verses that you're worthy. But the person inside doesn't feel worthy. The reason why this Christ-centered inner healing works is because Jesus is invited inside. He's inside the mind with you, and when He reveals the truth, He reveals the truth to you internally, not externally. And so this internal truth that comes from Jesus is many times more powerful than any external truth. Many people will have a counselor, a pastor, a prayer partner who will bring the exact same truth and it will bounce off. But when Jesus brings the truth, it's internal, it transforms the memory and it sets the person free. Some people ask the question, how do I know it's Jesus' voice? Well, there are actually 3 voices inside. There's your own voice, there's God's voice, and there's the voice that comes from the dark side. And the one way of determining between God's voice and the dark side is this sounding like love or is this sounding like destruction? If it's sounding like love, this is what is coming from God. If it's sounding like destruction, this is coming from the dark side. When you pray and you invite Jesus to speak to you, the next words, the next picture, the next feeling that you receive, that's what Jesus wants you to know. That's the truth that He wants you to have. And so in the process of learning how to do this listening, it's not what you hear an hour or 2 hours from now, it's what you hear as the next impulse in your brain after you've asked Jesus to reveal truth. And does this healing hold or does it stick? I've found with my clients that when Jesus transforms the memory is transformed forever. It doesn't undo. Now, there have been some people where we've done inner healing work, they've heard the truth, they've been set free, and a week later, the freedom that they had is gone. And in those cases, there's been a chemical imbalance. And I recommend that those people go see a medical doctor and check out their chemistry and look into, is there a chemical imbalance that needs to be addressed in addition to the inner healing? For some reason, the chemical imbalance is able to cause confusion in the mind and allows the spirits of darkness to contribute to more confusion. And so it is possible that as a Christian, even though God can heal, that you do need to see your doctor and deal with a chemical aspect of your problem. But if there's not a chemical issue, then the inner healing will hold, and you can visit that memory a month from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, and it will always be changed the way Jesus changed it when He brought the truth into your mind.